Hi and welcome to this wingtips review of the DuoTone Unit D Lab. For this review we had the 6 meter version of the wing. With regard to construction, you could be forgiven for thinking that the D Lab wing is the same as the Dacron version, but with a luller for the leading edge and strut. So essentially the same design but just lighter and stiffer. However, this would be incorrect. Whilst the shape of the wing and the overall design features are similar, the Alula version has a slimmer diameter leading edge and strut, and of course is lighter and stiffer due to that Alula material. It also has a refined outline compared to the Dacron wing, as well as refinement to the canopy twist and tension. But let's put that to one side for a moment and go over the details of the wing, as rather than just saying it's much like the Dacron version with some differences, we should really give it the full review in its own right. The leading edge and strut are made from Alula gold, which is a lightweight composite material that is UV resistant, much stronger than Dacron and extremely stretch resistant. It provides a very stiff, rigid frame for the canopy of this wing and is over 50% lighter than Dacron. The strut and leading edge on all unit Alula models are smaller diameter than the Dacron equivalent unit. The canopy is DuoTone's Mod 3, which is a stretch resistant plasma coating over ripstop canopy material. Having run Mod 3 wings for some time now, I can vouch that this is not just a buzzword and does really work to minimise canopy stretch. The D Lab unit comes in sizes from 3.5 metres to 6.5 metres in half metre steps. Interestingly, all the Alula units are inflated to a slightly lower pressure than their Dacron equivalents, most likely due to the smaller diameter leading edge and strut needing less pressure to deliver the necessary rigidity. The Unit D Lab comes with the same carbon handles as the Dacron unit, with the extended front handle that allows for one-handed riding. The same as the Dacron wings, the ergonomics of the handles are improved this year, and I can again vouch for this being a big improvement in comfort than the 2023 wing. The front flag handle is relatively stiff and enough to control the wing, but there are much better handles on other manufacturers' wings, and it is disappointing that this handle has not been upgraded to something better in the 2024 range. It does the job, but it's not leading the field with regard to flag handles. It also features the usual soft patch of material behind the flag handle to stop knuckle abrasion on the leading edge. As with all DuoTone wings, it neither comes with a wrist leash, not that you'd want the DuoTone one, and no valve adapter for the proprietary DuoTone valve. The inflation valve itself I have never had issues with on my wings, and there is a single inflation system between the leading edge and the strut that does allow you to pinch off the connection should you wish to inflate to different pressures, although DuoTone certainly don't advocate for this. If we move to the trailing edge, it's a bit looser than the 2023 unit, which aids the 2024 wing's better flag out and features the single removable batten to control trailing edge flutter. We also have tough load spreaders at the rear of the strut and also the wingtips to spread load in these high tension areas. There is Kevlar on the end of the strut and the wingtips to protect them from abrasion, and there are small reinforcement strips on the leading edge segment joints towards the wingtips. Finally, if we take the 6 meter D Lab wing and compare it weight for weight with the Dacron version, then there is around a 700 gram saving, or slightly over 23% lighter. This makes the 6 meter D Lab unit slightly lighter than a 4 meter Dacron unit. Okay, let's move on to how the wing performs on the water. I've been fortunate enough to sail all the D Lab units from 2022 through to the 2024 version, and prior to the 2024 version, the D Lab unit was for the most part a lighter and stiffer Dacron unit. With the 2024 version, although that statement is still true in that it has the feel of a unit, there are other differences now that set it further apart from the Dacron version in terms of power and performance. The 2024 version is the stiffest D Lab wing to date. It is also the most different to its Dacron equivalent. First, if we deal with the stiffness, this wing is super stiff. It has almost no flex at all. When you first go to pump it onto foil, there is just no reflex or spring in the wing at all, it feels like the only bit of the wing that moves when you pump it is the trailing edge of the canopy. This feels very odd initially, and also meant that my usual pump technique for a unit didn't work very well, as it relied upon some spring or reflex in the wing. Instead, you have to do a shorter, higher cadence pump and ignore that the wing is just not flexing at the wingtips at all. As a first impression, I wasn't sure that I actually liked it at all. It feels almost unnaturally stiff with very little give or cushioning from the wind. However, over time this feeling disappears and you start to feel that every little gust of wind gets converted into power or speed, and that's if you let it. You don't have to, you can use your backhand just to release power if you don't want it. The D-Lab wing is fast, faster than the Dacron wing, and with better handling of being overpowered, and it just doesn't deform when overpowered and keeps its shape. Instead of becoming unruly when overpowered, it just generates more power and speed without feeling unbalanced or feeling like the centre of effort from the wing is moving around. This I very much appreciated, because although the 2024 Dacron unit has got a much better top end than the 2023 version, it doesn't match the D-Lab version for power and control. If you add to this that the smaller leading edge diameters allow it to cut through the wind better in tacks, and the lighter weight makes it float more in jibes, you start to get a feel for what your extra money is actually paying for. More power, more speed, better wind range, better float, and easier to push through the wind in tacks. However, it isn't all upsides. For backwinding, because the canopy is so tight, you don't get as much power with the D-Lab wing, because you just don't get any flex in the tips to allow the canopy to fill. This was the only area I could identify where I'd lost something, and I forgot all about that the first time I tried to jump. It almost felt like jumping was what the D-Lab was made to do. That lack of flex means you get incredible glide off the wing. It hoists you high in the initial jump and then glides down much more gracefully than the Dacron version. It's really nice and makes jump landings way less eventful. The D-Lab unit is more planted or locked in than the Dacron version when cruising or overpowered, and when flagged it behaves way better as there is less swing weight. And that's even with the new unit, the Dacron version, being much better at flagging out. The D-Lab version just takes that to the next level. If we stick with the flag behaviour for a moment, I also ran the wing flip test, and I had to speed this clip up as it took such a long time for the wing to actually flip. The session time is on the screen and it's around a minute before it flips, and I had to encourage it in doing so by lifting the wing off the water. So on the whole, it is all upsides as long as you ignore backwinding, and as long as you don't mind a really stiff wing. And I think that is the only thing that I could identify that some people may not like, and that is that having such a stiff wing in your hands can feel a little bit unnatural, and it does take a bit of time to get used to that. Okay, so let's summarise the differences before we go on to talk about who this wing is for and what it costs, and then answer the question I'm asked all the time, which is whether it's worth the price you pay for an Alula wing. So to summarise, the D-Lab wing improves on the Dacron wing in speed, power, control when overpowered and high wind capability. It's stiffer, converts gusts into power and speed, jumps higher, floats down slower. It's lighter in jibes and tacks and cuts through the wind better due to the smaller leading edge. The Dacron unit is a little better at backwinding, and unfortunately that's about it. The Dacron unit is of course still a very good wing. It's just the D-Lab is better, and once you get used to the stiffness, this becomes obvious. I usually do price last, but in this instance I'm going to do price before I cover who this wing is for, because who it is for is relevant to the price. The D-Lab wing is in most instances a little under twice the cost of the Dacron version. The D-Lab 6 metre version on test here is £1,939, the Dacron 6 metre is £1,039. So it's quite an investment to purchase a D-Lab wing over the Dacron version. So now let's talk about who this is for. There are a few answers to this. Firstly, is not for beginners. When you are learning, buy a cheap wing with a good low end and use it to learn, fall on or through, stab with your foil, etc. A D-Lab wing is not going to help you learn any faster at all. So it's for intermediates or experts. And in that field, if money is no object and you want the best unit money can buy with the best performance, then the D-Lab is that, and you can 100% feel the difference. I don't believe with this extra wind range you could particularly buy less D-Lab wings over Dacron for a quiver, so it isn't a case of you could buy 2 D-Labs instead of 3 Dacrons, so that for me isn't really a viable argument to reduce the cost. If you're into jumping, then for sure the D-Lab offers a worthwhile amount of extra pop and glide. If you're into wave riding, then without a shadow of a doubt the D-Lab is both lighter and more stable on a wave and will provide an enhanced experience. And lastly, if you're into light wind winging, then the D-Lab 6.5 is a powerful wing that weighs less than a 4 meter Dacron wing, so when you are slogging off foil it's less wing to hold up, and when doing light wind jibes or just trying to gather extra speed to jibe, it will assist you. You don't need a quiver of D-Labs, so for the more frugal you might look at just having one D-Lab, maybe your most used wing size, or for me I have a 6.5 meter Dacron unit and I'd really like to be able to reduce the weight of that wing with a D-Lab unit and make light wind winging way more pleasurable. Which leads us to the question, is it worth it? And this is a very individual question that you have to answer for yourself, but I can add some thoughts. Firstly, if the price doesn't matter and you just want a quiver of the best units you can get, then just go ahead and buy them, they are better. If you'd like a little extra performance and are prepared to pay the price, then consider just one unit for your quiver and pick where it best fits for your personal riding. If you think it's too expensive, then get Dacron units. They're still a very good wing. There is no way they're going to ruin your enjoyment. If you ask me if a D-Lab is twice as good as a Dacron unit because it's twice the price, then clearly it isn't, and if that is how you want to evaluate performance versus value for money, then the D-Lab's just not for you. Lastly, consider that when you sell your D-Lab, it's going to depreciate over a year to somewhere around half its purchase price, so you will lose double the money that you would with a Dacron wing. Also consider that wing design is still moving very quickly, and you will probably want to get next year's wing, so for me the argument of buy it but keep it longer doesn't really hold, at least not yet. So I hope that helps, and it concludes our review of the D-Lab unit. The wing on test was a demo wing from the Water Sports Centre, and without their assistance I would not have been able to bring you this review. I'll include their video outro and links to them in the description. If you want to show them some support or even try their demo D-Lab wing for yourself, then get in contact with them.